Vicky Linnane and welcome to Embrace Therapy podcast. I am a practicing art therapist based in Ireland. In each episode, I will interview guests from various fields of therapy and well-being with the aim to encourage healing through embracing therapy. My guest this week is Finóla Lawlor. Finóla is a registered professional coach with the International Coach Federation. She believes that development of the self begins outside of one's comfort zone. Coaching is an exploration of self, bringing clarity and direction. Here's my interview with Finóla Lawlor. I hope you enjoy it. So you're very welcome. And thanks for coming on and having a chat. So the whole idea about this podcast is to embrace therapy. But that doesn't mean that it's just narrowly down to therapy. It means therapies, which can mean healing. So when we're talking about therapy, we talk about healing. That's what I see. So what is healing like for people? So somebody might go and talk to a therapist. Somebody might go and dance with a dance therapist. But there are other avenues. And Finóla today here with me is a life coach. And we would love to know a little bit more about that because it's a world that is, especially in Ireland, only really starting out now. Like, you know, there's a few people out there that have really paved the way in it and I'm familiar with them, but I'd love to know like a little bit why you got into it and a little bit about it. So maybe talk us through what it is that you do and maybe, you know, a little bit about why, maybe.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Vicky, for having me on today. My coaching journey probably started back in 2013 when I had myself finished in my degree and my master's in music, and I was working in music performance and all that. It was very nice, but I didn't really know where I was going. And my aunt was writing a book at the time, and she spoke about this coach that she worked with, and I'd never really heard of it. So I looked into it, and I found myself a coach, and I worked with her, and she, like, it was only a few sessions that I did, but she really helped me kind of get clarity and direction on where I wanted to go. And something that I really took away with it was the visualization piece. So she got me to really visualize where I saw myself, where I was working, what I was wearing to work, who I was working with, all those things. And I got into doing that. And like, it, you know, that's where I am then today. Like the coaching is part of it, of what I am. So like you said, in life coaching then. So I call myself a transformational coach, and I like to work and support people in how they grow both personally and professionally. So really when people come to me, they might, you know, have an idea about something or are stuck somewhere, but they're looking for really someone to bounce ideas off and get clarity and to look at, you know, what direction they might take things next. So it's very much goal orientated.
Yeah, and it's incorporating the work life and the home life as well. It's like, yeah, me, like you were saying, what I wear to work is even important. It's who I am.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's looking at the person.
Yeah.
You know, and who they are in all aspects, and like you said, blending them. Yeah.
And that place, that stuck place, like I'm really interested in that because definitely when clients come into me, it's like they've hit a wall.
Yeah.
You know, they're not going places. And it's an emotional wall, or it might be something completely different. But what is it, that stuck feeling that people come into you for, do you think?
Yeah, so it can be in so many different ways, so many different things. And looking at coaching, there's people who specialize in many different areas of coaching. So like I said, transformational coaching, there's people who might specialize specifically in business coaching.
Yeah.
But that stuck piece can really be, you might get somewhere and it's just not feeling right for you, but you don't know how to get past it. You know, maybe the people that you're having conversations with are just that little bit too close to you, that they're able to, they know too much of the background maybe, and it's good to then come to somebody neutral who picks up on many different things when you're having those conversations with them. And, you know, they might mention how you talk about a certain thing. Are there limiting beliefs there in how you look at certain things? Or is it a case that the language that you're using, or how your body changes when you talk about certain things, or maybe your eyes light up, and it's picking up on everything. And by breaking through, some of those areas that we're not aware of ourselves, I think it's from there that you can work through that stuck place and then come out the other side. So it's important to note as well that, like, coaching, we would say, and definitely in my practice, it's not a long-term thing. In therapies, there's lots of great therapies out there where you might work with someone over a very long period of time, but in coaching it can tend to be maybe 4 to 6 sessions. Not to say that you can't work with the person again after that, but that you might come back in another 6, 9, 12 months. But it's really a short period to get to a goal.
So in a sense then, you're like taking the person from, let's say they're in this position, and then you're shifting them into a different kind of place.
Yeah, so within coaching as well, you believe that we all have the answers within ourselves, and the coach is really there to guide, but let the person that you're working with come to their own decisions and answers and that themselves. So maybe it's asking the right questions, and being fully present with the client as well, and not having a specific agenda. That's really, really important as well.
Huge. Yeah, just like being there, being present, being actively listening, and in that moment. Because like definitely people can come in, definitely in my practice, and it's very much like busy, and the mind is racing, and just that moment sitting there with someone in that stillness sometimes can even help kind of reframe and cause a pause and a shift. Like, it's just really interesting. It's like even that initial first session can actually just be huge for people,
because it's giving the time to people. It's basically allowing a space for people to come into, to pause, stop, reflect, look inwards, so that they can then grow outwards.
Gorgeous. So true. So then, for this growth to happen, you're obviously wanting them to reflect, like you said, but in that middle ground where it's like, week 3, week 4, and the work is being done, or there has been some shift, what might that look like? Would it be, and you said tools of how to handle these situations, or is it, just a different feeling, like an outward vision or something? Like, is it a bit of both? Like, is it tools that you're handing them, or just a different perspective?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of both, but within that, the feeling is unique to everyone. Especially for what their goals are for working with a coach. So there are definitely tools that we use in coaching, and then there's a lot of things that they can take away. It's very much about what they do outside of the session as well. So if it's even something like journaling, or writing down, if there's a particular thing that came out within the session, that even just noticing that and paying attention to that happening in their day-to-day life, and maybe it's journaling about that, or writing it down, or what was happening at that time. So there's a lot of noticing, reflecting, but there would be tools used as well within the sessions to like go back to that stuckness. Maybe there could be a place that we're stuck, and what tools can help in that scenario.
Like building a new container or something, like one that can hold, and one that you can, like, the image of, like, I go and I fill my cup. And it's remembering the important things to put in your cup in order for you to be your true full self, to give it your best. You need to have a combination of things. What might be the things that you might talk about? Like, would it be, rituals, or would it be more kind of cognitive behavioral kind of things? Like, is it like, you need to get up at this time, but I advise that you do a bit of journaling before you go to work, or like, what does it look like in that way?
Yeah, so it would be very much like not advice necessarily given by the coach, but almost the person finding for themselves what works. And there will be people who naturally have routines or rituals that they follow in their day-to-day life, and that may help them. But then there'll be those who don't do that, and maybe they haven't yet found the value in that in their life. And I could be looking at exploring those options for what does routine look like, or what are rituals, and I know they can mean different things to different people. For me, routine is very much getting stuff done. Whereas rituals, I even feel like the word, it's more nourishing, but that can be in anything that brings me joy. So for me, a ritual could be exercise, because exercise brings me joy. A ritual could be cooking or baking, because that brings me joy. A ritual for me could be playing music, because that brings me joy. And routine is really for getting the stuff done. So it's trying to if that's important to the conversation that we're having, and that's something that would help move them forward with their goals, then absolutely we would explore the options of maybe how a routine or a ritual could help them with where they're trying to get to.
Yeah. So we'll all have amazing bakers, I'm sure, because absolutely through the pandemic, you could see this kind of coming up, this stripping it back to what's important and finding a new foundation to continue and get through. And it did seem especially social media was all about the banana bread,
the sourdough.
get fermenting as well and everything.
I know, which made me think, what are we doing in our lives outside of this pandemic where we're not making time for that? Because if it is so nourishing and wholesome to a lot of us, what are we doing instead?
Yeah, exactly. Giving too much food to thought about the doing, putting guilt and shame on ourselves when we don't fulfill our ritual or routine. Slides off, it's hard to keep all those I suppose plates spinning sometimes. But if we in the pandemic where we all stripped it back and was very much no, we're going back to the basics, doing myself wholesome foods, putting in a bit of routine, be it doing homeschool with the kids and a bit of exercise, and shaping the day around the meal times even. That.
Absolutely, and I found that myself within through lockdown and this pandemic, that just having those daily rituals almost punctuated your day, and it gave you that structure, that going to the train when that wasn't there, so getting up and going for a walk in the morning and actually feeling the value of that, rather than, when you're in the busyness of life and you're going in and out to the office every day, that getting your exercise is something that you maybe have to fit in, but you're not focusing so much on the feeling that it gives you. Whereas I've noticed myself that, I get up and I go to the gym because I know it makes me feel good, but because also I want to stay fit and healthy. But it's part of my routine, and you kind of can get into the motion of just doing it. And like you said, focus on the doing, as opposed to the pandemic, I feel has helped me focus on the being.
Yes.
And that getting up every day and going for a walk or doing my exercise video and then starting my day, and cooking in the evening and just bringing it back to the simple things has been really, really lovely.
We're talking about the rituals and the importance of it, and I remember Oprah Winfrey talking about her ritual, which is making the tea. And even that, it can be so small. And it's just making it an importance, taking the nurture from it, like you're saying, and being the being in the now. So, putting on the kettle as long as it takes to boil, getting the tea, if it's loose tea, gorgeous, whatever it is, sustainable bag, whatever it is, but she was really saying it was a mindful moment for her, where she would, notice the smell even, taking that time. Those moments are precious if you're busy. But it's exactly what you said. It's you love being healthy and fit, and you love the effects of a good workout, like a good run or whatever it might be. You know, you get endorphins from that. It's amazing. But it's like you said, just tuning into that now, and my body's gonna love me for this. I'm such a good person for doing this for myself, and that's amazing, and that's so important for your self-esteem. So I can imagine, if people were to sit with you and do the 4 or 6 weeks, depending on the situation, that even those moments of coming back and being like, oh, that really helped, I'm going to continue to do that for me. And just even that, the power in that, like, the saying, I'm going to do that for me, that's a lovely thing. It's transformational,
Yeah, because coaching is giving yourself time. It's giving you time. It is a form of self-care. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm curious then, Oprah Winfrey's tea, mine is a bath. Absolutely love the bath. But like, what's your go-to, like, I treat myself kind of thing?
Treat myself kind of thing. I'd say I have a few. I definitely love like a good cup of tea.
Yeah.
There's like every evening we love to have a cup of tea, and sometimes you wouldn't want to have it straight after dinner because you might want to push it out to when you really want it, like maybe 8 or 8:30, and just sitting down in the evening. Lighting a candle is something else that that I really love, and it's so simple but brings me a lot. There's a lot, even like just a walk. They kind of, now that I'm saying them out loud, they're all so simple. But baking is another one. I really like baking, probably because you get to eat at the end of it as well.
Lovely full belly, thank you. And like the candle is really nice. Like, it made me think about the rituals I have as a therapist. So like setting up the space, so I have loads, like I wear certain clothes, I wear a certain perfume. I definitely talked about this on the podcast before, but like having those rituals almost gets me in the role, and then it's really nice to de-roll then as well. But the candle is so important. It sits there in between us. It is that moment where if something's tough, you can just take a moment and just look at the flame. Like, it's just so simple. And then the blowing out of it. So I would generally blow out a candle after each individual session.
Okay.
Which is nice because it's like that energy is gone and I'm going to start a new one. But, is there anything then, like my candle in my session, is there anything that you do in your sessions that people might be finding comfort in? What would you say you'd bring as in a ritual to your own sessions? Do you have anything?
I would actually agree. I would do the same. Like lighting a candle, I think. I would have done coaching with people on Zoom anyway, but now this has the pandemic has brought it forward, that's kind of the norm now as well, to do it on Zoom. There's lots of different coaches who've been doing it on Zoom anyway, but even still lighting the candle. But outside of lighting the candle, it's really important for me to give myself 15 minutes before and 15 minutes afterwards. And it's just to get in the space and the mind, to slow myself down from where I've come from that day. So it would be almost like I would feel like I wasn't fully present for them if I had rushed into it. So that's why I like to give myself that bit of time before and afterwards. And like you said as well, blowing out the candle, giving myself the 15 minutes and putting a close to the session as well.
Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah.
Lovely. And, we're talking about Zoom and the kind of the platforms that we're all using now, but it was something familiar to you. I'm wondering, does it mean that you might have people outside of Ireland, working with you, and does it mean that you get to kind of branch out a little bit further? And how has that been? Have you got to do that?
Yeah, I have actually. I've worked with people outside of Ireland over Zoom or other video conference, Skype or whatever it might be, and it's been great. The video is great because it still picks up on all of those things.
Totally.
The hand gestures, where the eyes go, So yeah, Zoom is great for that, and it definitely opens up the world. There's lots, like you said, lots of coaches out there, and the type of coaching that I do is one-to-one for now, but my goal would really to be to, in the future, to look at moving into maybe organizations and doing group coaching and things like that. So it's getting more popular in the corporate world, and they're seeing the value of coaching, and so it's really a path that I'd love to take things in the future.
That's gorgeous. And the idea of you getting into these like corporations that have like their systems, and maybe people are a bit like stuck in this kind of rat race and feeling like a cog in it, and it provides that opportunity to be like, no, I'm an individual, and without me this cog is not going to turn. I'm part of this system, and the company might be taking value in each individual, and you're coming in and you're going to just do that work with them and help them as individuals work together.
Yeah,
and it's gorgeous. Really
absolutely.
Gorgeous.
And I think as well, the people who are working in that company, knowing that this is an outsider coming in to help in this space, and they're neutral, it brings that piece of neutrality.
So it's gorgeous that you have a goal, and I think we all should, and the nature of the work is really goal orientated. So it would be odd for me to say, like, in my work as well, actually we do have goals as well, but it's definitely a slower pace. So with it being not necessarily suggested that it's a short space of time, but would you find that people are more willing to kind of put the work in because it's like, I'm going to give this 6 weeks, I'm going to make a difference, it's doable? Whereas I suppose in my work it can be really slow, and maybe when there is an ending coming up, then it's when all the stuff comes up. So maybe I'm just wondering about that, and the goal setting, and the kind of time structure that's put on it. And I'm wondering, does it speed up the process a little bit, or is it more intense? Is it?
It's not as strict, let's say, as 4 to 6 weeks. So that's kind of a guide, let's say 4 to 6 weeks. But you might meet someone and it's just 2 sessions you have with them because they've gotten to where they might want to be at the end of that time. And that's actually what I really like about coaching. It's not like pushing things on people to stay longer with it. It's looking at, first of all, are we a good fit as, person who wants to do coaching and coach, for them to work together? And that's really important, to kind of look at that relationship and make sure that the person who wants to engage in coaching feels that, that you've got a good relationship there. And you should always, good practice would be to give them 2 or 3 numbers of other coaches you might know, for them to go and have a chat with them as well, to see, to have a chat with others and see if you maybe have a better connection with them, or if you're happy enough to come back and work. And then from there, so that would be called like the initial chemistry meeting. And then from there you would look at the sessions, and you would say that it usually takes between 4 to 6 weeks. However, we might get to where you want to get to in 2 weeks, and that's absolutely fine. Not 2 consecutive weeks, but 2 sessions, and that's absolutely fine. If we do get there. So it's really looking and letting the client have ownership of these sessions, and the cadence that works for them. Although we would recommend about 3 weeks between each session, 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, that's news to me. I had no idea. That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, that's how I work anyway, and it gives a bit of time for the client to do the work as well. And the thing is that it's always about, what do you want to focus on today? What's important to you? So that could change from 1 week to the other, because when they've been doing the work between sessions, they might actually realise that actually that's not so important to me. This is what I'm really trying to get to. and that becomes the new focus going forward, or it might change. And it's about being flexible in that as well. So being very open and honest with who you're working with at all times, and checking in and seeing, you know, where are you at now with where you want to get to? Have the goals changed? Have they shifted? So yeah.
Gorgeous. Yeah. It sounds so amazing, the work that you're doing. And like, it's so different, I suppose, from the world that I'm in. But absolutely gorgeous that you can have the pause, the reflection, the doing, because, you know, in my work, it's very much a block of 6, and it has to be each week.
Okay.
And then you make a decision to stay or not.
Okay.
But it's very, like you said, it's like, I suppose, it's just kind of the format that I've stuck to, and I've seen people drop off then, or they might stay on. Most of the time people do stay on and give 3 months actually. That would be the average. But I wonder, like, you know, there's something so nice about offering the weeks in between. I'm seeing the value in that now, like, and like you said, offering those connecting days where you're talking about chemistry. Like, I think that's everything.
Yeah.
You know, like the Carl Rogers approach is very much like the person-centered approach, and I try to encompass that in my work, and you know, make sure that, you know, they are leading each session. But by offering this space, it just sounds like a huge room for growth.
Yeah, and it can vary, you know, that's the approach. And I am accredited by the International Coaching Federation, and in my training, that was what was suggested. That's what I worked through when I worked with a coach back from 2013 who was also accredited by the ICF. But I have worked with myself in the meantime with a business coach, and because the time frame of the goal that I wanted to get to was quite near, as in it was only 6 weeks out, and there was a bit of work to do, we met each week. Yes. You know, it was over Zoom, but we met each week. So that it you know, it is flexible. Yeah,
the work really varies.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so adaptable. That's brilliant. So like, I thank you so much again for coming on. If people were to find you online, like, where would they go? What's your name online?
Yeah, so my website is FinolaLawlorCoaching.com. So that's where they can go. I don't have social sites or anything up and running yet, but will do in the future. But for now, FinolaLawlorCoaching.com, and you can go on there and find out a little bit more about me, about maybe my what I offer, and you know, if you want to know a little bit more, you can always get in touch as well.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Vicky. Thanks.